Alison. First of all, sorry it's taken me such a long time to get to this recording. What I'm going to do is play the footage through a few times, pick up on some pointers, give you show you some demonstration videos of good technique, and also look at some drills and things that you can work on to try and address some of the issues identified. The way the system works is it records everything. Basically, it's recording everything I say and my screen. And I say that because you might get email messages popping up, you might get my cat meowing, all that kind of stuff. But this is the best way of kind of giving you the full package in terms of the information on the screen. So what we'll start by doing is just playing it through, and I'll make some comments as we go, and then we'll go from there. So the video sometimes can be a little bit glitchy. It's just down to the definition of the swim video and the ability of the computer to handle it. So it's normally all right, but just so as you've been warned, it does stick every now and again. The first thing I noticed with your stroke, Alison, is you've actually got a very good natural body position. If you look at where you sit in the water, your bottom is on the surface of the water, and you're actually quite high, which is really, really good place to start. When we're looking at swim correction, the first thing we look at really is breathing and relaxation. Okay, so I have had a look at the whole footage, and there is a little bit of breath holding and things going on. So I think breathing and getting more relaxation to your breathing is something which definitely needs to be worked on. It's not really bad, but it will certainly help you. If you hold your breath, then it does, and you hold air in your lungs, it does tend to have a tendency to lift your upper body up, which means your legs will sink a little. And being much more relaxed when you're swimming is obviously going to be beneficial if you're doing endurance events anyway. Your stroke rate's a little bit too slow. It's not overly slow. Again, it's something that we can work on at some point. At this stage, you're not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to let this play through for now, and then what we'll do is we'll repeat the process, but I'll pause it and then talk through the points again. Your head positioning is something that needs to be looked at. You do have a tendency to lift your head to breathe, and then sometimes you dip your head right the way down and look almost backwards, and though you're looking at what's going on behind you. This does have a tendency to break up the stroke and break up the rhythm of the stroke and cause your legs to sink a little, and sometimes to scissor kick. Ideally, when you're swimming, you want to be keeping a still head position and then just a turn to breathe. We don't want to have too much kind of up and down movement. We have what we call the bow wave and Popeye breathing. So ideally, you want to be, if you keep your head still, like in a boat or in a ship, you have a bow wave which forms around the front of the head. That bow wave has a little dip of water behind it, which is below the natural surface of the water. Now, if the bow wave is in place, it means you can turn your head to breathe, and you breathe into that little dip rather than having to lift your head higher to get clear air. And we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a minute. What's good about your stroke is you don't have a huge amount of crossover. When I say crossover, I'm talking about the way the arms enter the water. Some people have a tendency to cross right over to one side. Yours are going quite straight ahead. A little bit of improvement there, but nothing too bad. When you come back here, we do need to look at your arm entry, your catch and pull. You do have a tendency to come down quite flat and push the water down rather than backwards. And finally, just the kick. You do have a decent kick there, but the kick needs a little bit of tidying up. Some of these things will improve, as we work through the kind of the swim correction process. Very often, for example, if you sort out your rhythm, your breathing, and your relaxation, then what that will do is it will bring up your legs and it will allow you to hold a better body position, and potentially improve your kick, particularly if you have a tendency to over rotate. So there's normally a chain of events which are caused um, as you swim. So it's a case of working out which order to deal with things. Okay, so what we're going to do now then is I'm going to play it back through, but this time I'm going to stop it and make some additional notes and bring in some clips and other bits and bobs as we go. I might jump around just to try and find certain areas of footage that I'm interested in showing you. Right, so first of all what we're doing is looking at the breathing and when you're breathing. Okay. So bilateral breathing, which is good. Everyone should ideally bilateral breathe because it adds balance to the stroke. You're obviously able to do that, which is good. Okay, what I'm showing you here is it's not so much breathing. It obviously is related to breathing, but it's more to do with your head position. You're turning your head quite a long way out of the water. It's a little bit too high. Ideally, your head wants to be a little bit lower, and we want to be seeing just one goggle coming out of the water. Okay, so if we continue it through, what we can see here is your head, as I said before, kind of bobbing up and down a little bit almost. So you lift it to breathe, and then you put it right the way down when you stroke, and you lift it quite high to breathe again. And it's kind of constantly bobbing up and down and breaking up the bow wave, which should form around the front of the head. Just while we're at this point, what I'll do is I show you the head position, what your head position should look like. Okay, so you see this image here. This is what I'm talking about with the bow wave. So the bow wave, you keep your head still, the bow wave forms around the head. You have a dip of water behind the bow wave, and you should ideally only be turning your head to the point where one eye is out the water. And this is Popeye breathing, what they call Popeye breathing. You're breathing out the side of your mouth, just to give you that little bit of free space just to get the air in there. Okay, so you shouldn't be having to lift your head any higher than that. What I'll get you to do and go through with you is some body positioning. A lot of this is to do with body positioning in terms of if you get your body in the correct shape, in the correct position, then that will assist you to kind of roll over and take the breath when you need to, rather than lifting your head to breathe. And again, going back to breathing, if we can stop the need to lift the head higher, then it'll make it easier for you to maintain your correct body position in the water. Okay, so we continue to play it through. So again, body position. You can see your bottom on the surface of the water. You can see your arms coming in quite flat here, look. So rather than spearing in, that one's not so bad actually. Have a look at the left, coming in very flat, look. We'll have another look at that in a minute, but coming in quite flat. That's what I was referring to before. When you're kicking, your heels are occasionally just touching the surface of the water, and it looks like predominantly just your right heel. We'll have a look at the kick in a bit more detail in a second. From this angle, there's only so much you can see. This is kind of pool view. This is normal kind of coach's poolside view. Ideally, you want to be seeing under the water. That's and from above, because that's where you see the vast majority of the kind of issues that need to be looked at. Okay, so we're going under the water now. What I'm looking for particularly just to start with here is the breathing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause it at this point and just play it through slowly. Okay, so what I'm just going to show you quick first of all though is what happens when you lift to breathe. I'm just going to run it through until I can find a decent clip to show you. Okay, so if you look here at this point, what I'm trying to show you here is your body positioning. Okay, so at that point, your body position is excellent. Your body is in good alignment with the surface of the water. A lot of the time, people's bodies are at this kind of angle, but yours is nice and high, which is great. Now, if I play this through now, as you breathe, watch what happens to your body position, because you lift your head, and then your body sinks down. So your upper body is down here, and then your legs are scissor kicking, and we're causing, all this is causing you to slow down. Okay, now, ideally that should all be up towards the surface of the water, but it's causing you to drop because you're lifting your head to breathe. What's actually also happening here, which is actually quite a good place to show you this, is your lead arm, while you breathe, is collapsing down. That lead arm should be staying high and giving you the leverage to to turn your head to get the breath you need. Because that lead arm is collapsing, it's pulling the rest of your body down, which means you feel like you have to lift your head higher, even higher up to breathe to get the clear air. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is what happens when you breathe and what's happening to the air in your lungs. So you're taking the breath, you can see some air there. We might have to play it through until we find a clear shot. So that air that the breath you've just taken is all in your lungs at the moment. So you do have a natural body position, which is good, but it can have a tendency to still cause your legs to sink down a little bit. So as you continue to stroke, you've still got that air in your lungs. There, it starts to come out halfway through the stroke, and then you're breathing now. Okay, if we run it through again, you've taken a breath, you're still holding it, you're still holding it, you're still holding it, you're still holding it, still holding it, and then you start to breathe out at that point, just before you take the breath. Okay, so ideally we want to be seeing constant breathing. Let me just see if I can find you a clip for that. Okay, so what this is showing you is a clip of Paul Newsome from Swim Smooth, just pushing off and showing constant exhalation while he's breathing. So I just want you to see what your breathing should look like, just to demonstrate, how you're holding your breath. It's only a short clip. So the constant stream of bubbles coming out of his mouth all the time. Takes a breath, breathing out. Takes a breath, breathing out. Okay, so that's what we want to be looking for. So a constant breath out. So if you look at yours in comparison, you're holding your breath at that point, holding your breath, and then you breathe out just before you take a stroke. What that means is you've got minimal time to actually get the air back in. By the time you turn your head, you should be fully exhaled, okay? Which means you've got more time. You don't feel like you have to lift your head higher to get the air you need to breathe, okay? So for that reason, the first thing I recommend for you to work on is something they call the sink down exercise, or the sink down drill, okay? So have a watch of this. It might be a bit sticky because of the internet's playing up a little bit this morning.
Okay, so breathing is probably one of the hardest things for... Okay, so breathing is probably one of the hardest things for swimmers to get right, certainly in the initial stages of developing their swimming stroke. Even some very advanced swimmers maybe grew up with the knowledge that they should actually be holding onto their breath underneath the water to somehow improve their buoyancy, to lift their whole body higher in the water there. However, we find that this causes a few problems. A, the swimmer often feels quite anaerobic in the water, so they feel like they're often getting quite sort of tense, breathing doesn't feel relaxed. And B, that whole idea of improving the buoyancy, if the buoyancy is held in the chest and lungs, that's going to allow the swimmer to sit very high at the front, but typically for many male triathletes, low sinking legs in the water, that's going to exacerbate this low sinking leg position in the water. And whilst the front end of the stroke is very, very high, the back end will be dropping down, creating additional drag. If you're holding onto your breath underneath the water, it also gives a sensation that you're actually going to feel like you're running out of breath, running out of steam very, very quickly. When you take a breath of air in, you're obviously sucking in oxygen and carbon dioxide at the same time. Your body wants the oxygen, but it doesn't want that CO2. You need to get rid of it underneath the water. If you hold on to the CO2, the relative levels start to increase, and that gives a sensation of you feeling like you're going to gasp and run out of steam. So we're going to try this little exercise now with these 5 swimmers in the pool here at Challenge Stadium, just to show you how we can get them swimming and breathing a little bit more easily and economically underneath the water with this sink down exercise. Okay, guys, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to ask you to try and sink to the bottom of the pool. Okay, now, whilst that might sound like a very simple exercise, especially for those of you who feel like you're quite sinky, especially in the legs, what you're going to do here is you're not going to use your arms and legs to sink down, so you're not allowed to push or anything like that. I literally want you to take a big breath of air in, blow out from your mouth, and see if you can sit your bum on the bottom of the pool. Okay? I'll count you down from 3, 2, 1, and then give it a try. Remember, no assistance with the arms and legs. Just see by blowing out if you can get yourself down. Mike's very keen here. I can see him. He's, come on, get him down. Okay, are we ready? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Good. Okay. Now, some of you got down straight away like a rock, sunk straight down to the bottom. But, Mike, it's probably fair to say with yourself that when you swim, one of the biggest single things holding you back with your swimming is low sinking legs in the water. That's why you feel so much better swimming with a pool boy between the legs or maybe swimming in the ocean, etc. And yet, in that situation, you were the last person to sink down. So, what actually happened there, Mike was actually holding on to his breath quite substantially. You were like tiny little trickle of air coming out, but it wasn't a full exhale. Cindy went down like a stone, straight down to the bottom. She's also very lean, okay, but she went down very, very quickly because of the way she exhaled in the water. So this time, what I want you to try is we'll all try what Mike's doing and see if we can actually get ourselves down to the bottom of the pool. So we'll take a big breath of air in. We'll hold on to the breath with the face underneath the water for the first 3 seconds. And then very quickly, blow out and see if we can get down to the bottom. Now, this is the way that many, many swimmers swim. They'll hold on to the breath for the first couple of strokes and blow out very rapidly, taking a nice sharp inhale
that's what you're doing, Alison.
just before they pop their head back down into the water. Unfortunately, this adds to the buoyancy like we saw with Mike there and keeps the swimmer in this situation sitting very, very high in the water. Okay, are we ready then? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Now, you can see here that all the swimmers have stayed floating in the water there. Eventually they go down, but it's only once they start to release that they get down straight away.
Okay, I think we'll pause it there. So I think that gives you the idea of what we're looking at, and Paul explains quite well the kind of the benefits of making sure you've got constant exhalation and what it does to your body if you're holding your breath. And you can see here that you're definitely holding some air into your lungs. Okay, and you've got this build-up of CO2, which kind of causes a bit of stress and anxiety, and doesn't lead well to relaxed swimming. Okay, so that's all I want to cover at this point in terms of breathing. Head position we'll look at next. So as you can see, your head is kind of down at the moment. You take a breath, lift to breathe, and then your head dips right the way down sometimes. And if I fast forward it a little bit, there's one or two occasions where you dip your head right the way down. Now, actually, if I just pause it there, I think one of the things that is worth you looking at is your upper body flexibility as well. So if I just take that back a little step, I know you weren't kind of trying to push off in a particularly streamlined way here, but ideally you should be able to get these arms up here. So the way you're pushing off like that might indicate that you've got some lack of flexibility in the upper back and the shoulders here. Increasing the flexibility in this area will make you allow you to have a much smoother stroke and have a better arm entry and recovery, and hold better body positioning. If you're a little bit stiff in the upper back, it can lead to a kind of a bit of a flatter swimming style, less fluid style. So that might be something just for you to consider while I see that. Okay, so if we carry on forwarding it through. So take a breath, and then take a breath again. I'm just waiting for you to look right down. I think that's it there. So at that point, take it back a little bit. So you take your breath, you then put your head back in the water, and your head dips right the way down. So you're almost looking backwards, okay? And then you look forwards, and then you lift your head. So interesting, you're looking forwards, breathing out, and then you're turning your head to breathe this way. Okay, so if I show you a clip of let's see who we can find here. Jono van Hazel swimming. Spare me 2 seconds while I get this. That's not playing for some reason. Okay, so the reason I'm showing you Jono is just because he's got some incredible head positioning. He's just so still. If you look at his head, you could almost balance something on the top of the back of his head, because it doesn't move from the same spot. It's completely still. He turns to breathe and it's back to the same position. Okay, so that's the head positioning we should be seeing. We can see the bow wave, and the body rolls and rotates to take the breath, and that's it. Okay, so clearly yours is moving around quite a lot. Okay, so what it's worth doing is experimenting with your head position. Just going to try and find something to show you. So see this image here. What you can do is you can experiment with swimming a length looking down, swimming a length looking forward, swimming a length looking further forward, swimming a length looking right the way forward. Okay, and just seeing how that feels and seeing how your body and your legs get affected by the different head positioning. What you may find is that when you try some of these and you turn your head to breathe, it's actually easier. So for example, if you have a tendency to look down, which you do sometimes, then you have to lift your head a long way to get the breath. Whereas if you're looking further forwards, then your head is naturally closer towards the surface, and you only have to turn, you don't have to turn so far, so you may find you've got more time to breathe. So what I recommend you do is experiment with that. So do a length looking down, length looking forward, length looking further forward, and length looking even further forward, and then just seeing how it feels. just seeing how it feels. Then it's really a case of practicing your relaxed breathing, your constant exhalation while you're swimming, and swimming and having a consciousness of what your head is doing, and just trying to concentrate on keeping your head still. I'll leave Jono there for the time being. Okay, so we continue to play it through. I'll look at the catch in a minute. Okay, so what I want to show you now is your kick. Okay, so kicking. I've stopped it at quite a good point there. Look at your legs at that point. Legs are together, both down. Okay. Ideally, it should be a constant rhythm to the kick. What I'm looking for is where you're kicking from and the position of your feet. The kicking doesn't have much rhythm to it, and there is a time when you breathe and as I said to you earlier, your lead arm can collapse a little bit. Your legs will both sink because they're not doing anything at the moment. And then when you take a stroke, you almost kick-start your kick again, and that is a good kick at that point. You see that kick? You kick down with the far leg. Your feet are pointed as you kick down. It kicks down nicely, and that one follows. So at that point, you've got a couple of nice kicks there, and then it continues. You have a bit of a scissor kick when the lead arm drops, because your body does that because you need to try and balance. And then you stop kicking, and I think it's just before you take a breath. You have a pause, you take a breath, you put your head back into the water, and then you have a little dead spine, you kick there. Let's play that through. Okay, so we need to work on the kick and getting some rhythm and timing to the kick. Let's see if I can show you some footage of Jono's kick here. There we go. See, constant rhythm to the kick, constant rhythm. It's in balance with the rest of the stroke. Kicking from the hips. So a good exercise for improving your kick is the torpedo kick. I'm not a massive fan of kicking up and down with kickboards all day. Generally with a kickboard, it does have a tendency to make you hold your body in slightly incorrect position because you're curved up at the front end holding the kickboard. That's not the way you swim. It'll improve your leg kick, but it's not good for your body positioning, and we need to work on all aspects really. So the torpedo drill is a good one for you to work on. It's not quite as daunting as kicking up and down length after length of the kickboard, because you only swim you only kick for half a length or so, and then you swim the rest of the length out. But let's play this video and you can have a watch of this, see what you think.
So we're now going to do the torpedo kicking exercise, which is a great way to measure the efficiency of your freestyle leg kick and how it's developing. On this little exercise, I'm going to push off the wall and kick as far as I can and as fast as I can on one single breath, trying to get a maximum proportion from my leg kick. I'm then going to turn around and contrast that with a nice steady lap of freestyle back into the wall, arms as well, but with a very, very gentle leg kick, just enough leg kick to provide a good body position in the water, and most importantly for my legs not to be dragging behind me. My toes are going to be pointed out behind me, turn slightly in, I'm just going to have a gentle tap, tap, tap of the toes from behind me. Let's see how we go.
That's a good point, actually. When you do kick, just think about tapping the big toes, because it means that you point your toes. It helps you think about pointing your toes, and also helps you not kick quite as widely, and staying in control of your kick. It just gives you something to focus on.
When you're doing this particular exercise, make sure you're kicking as hard as you can off the wall. The idea is to contrast a hard effort off the wall in this talk.
So if you look at the way Paul is kicking, there's a constant rhythm to the kick, and it's kicking from the hips and not from the knees.
Position with a steady swim back with hardly any effort from the legs.
Now that exercise, you're trying to go as far as you can on one single breath. And as you can tell, I'm actually quite out of breath from doing that. Which brings home the point that kicking very, very hard is actually quite wasteful of energy. Even the great Ian Thorpe only used to generate up to 11% of his entire propulsion from the leg kick. The rest of it came from very good catch and pull through, good body position in the water combined with great rotation. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to swim back to the wall with a much steadier leg kick, just enough to keep my feet nice and high in the water, focusing on just turning the toes in and tapping gently against each other. So this torpedo leg kick exercise is a fantastic way for those of you who've maybe tried doing some kicking exercises in the past with a kickboard out in front of your head, but found you've gone nowhere. Unfortunately, the kickboard's lifting you too high up at the front, exacerbating low sinking legs at the back, and if you haven't got the correct form and technique, i.e. toes pointed out, nice long straight legs, you simply won't go anywhere. Next try practicing some leg kick, give this little exercise a bit of a go. Okay, here we go, back with the freestyle.
Okay, so that's something good for you to consider. So you can build that into some of your workouts. It's nice and simple. It doesn't mean you have to swim length after length with the kickboard. And like Paul says, if you haven't got a good leg kick, you won't go anywhere with the kickboard anyway. It'll be very frustrating, and you'll probably have a tendency to ditch the kickboard and not do any kicking. At least this allows you to give it a good go. You can get some decent speed up, put some effort in, and then swim it out, concentrating on the rest of the kick. Okay, what we're going to move on to next is body position and alignment. Let's just whiz this forward a little bit. What I'm not going to cover today is your catch and pull through. That is something which is kind of almost the next phase as far as I see it. The body positioning, breathing, and alignment and your kick are the key aspects to work on initially. Once those are in place, then they will set you up for a better catch and pull through. And that's what we can look at next, potentially, if you give me a shout. Okay, so let's have a look at your body positioning and your alignment. When I talk about alignment, what I'm talking about is ideally when you take a stroke, if I just play Jono through here, you could draw a line. He's like he's on rails. So as he swims, he's always within the rails, okay? So I'm looking for a similar kind of thing for you here. Seeing what happens to the arms as you swim, okay? Now what I am seeing at this point is you're quite curved, okay? So you need to try and hold a straight body position. Your arm ideally should be straight ahead as you enter the water. So you enter the water and your hand spears straight forwards. What you're actually doing is you're entering with a bent elbow, and your arm is extending forwards but over to one side. What that does is it means you have a tendency to scissor kick, which causes your legs to drop and a bit of drag. So if this was all nice and straight, sorry about all the lines, if this is all nice and straight, you wouldn't be snaking around in quite such the way that you are. That's good. That's perfectly straight. That's really good. Your legs are slightly straighter as a result. So your legs have stayed together. I think that might actually be the dead spot in your kick, but your legs are together and they're nice and straight at that point. And then the other arm comes over. It's not too bad. I've seen people whose arms are coming right over and they're crossing right over, which causes a huge scissor kick, but it's not too bad. Now, what we are seeing here at this point is the lead arm collapsing. And this is what I said to you before. The lead arm is collapsing down, which means you haven't got the support of that arm to take the breath, which means you have to lift your head higher to get the air. So again, if we look at Jono, he's taking a breath there. Doesn't look like it, but he's actually taking a breath at that point. His lead arm is still high. He's still taking a breath. He's actually gone into the catch position and then rolls over and takes another stroke. So whenever he takes a breath, you can wait for him to take a breath. There we go. He takes a breath. Lead arm stays high until he's ready to bring the next arm in. What you're doing is your lead arm is collapsing down. So at this point, this is what we call the front quadrant. You should always have one arm extended in the front quadrant, and you don't. So which means you don't have the propulsion and you don't have the support at the front end. Again, it's just a body positioning issue, which we'll look at with some drills in a minute. So if we look at Jono, similar kind of thing, he's got an arm out. He's always got an arm extended in that front quadrant. But not too bad, not too bad. A little bit of body positioning and the lead arm sinking is the main issue. Okay, so the best drills for that are kicking on the side. Let's find so I can find you a clip for that. Kick on the side drill. Here we go. I'm sure you've done this at the club. You do need fins ideally for this, which I'll talk to you about shortly. Have a watch of this.
The kick on your side drill is a mainstay drill of the Swim Smooth program. It's a multi-purpose drill that develops your posture in the water, your alignment, and your catch setup technique.
So I'm going to stop it there. The positioning in this drill is very important. Ideally, you want to get someone watching you when you do this drill, because what you can have a tendency to do is hold your body in the incorrect position, which ultimately means you're drilling yourself to hold the wrong position in the water. It's important that you stay in a nice streamlined position, and this is particularly important. So what you'll see here is that when Paul breathes, and this is why I'm showing you this, when Paul breathes, he keeps his lead arm high, whereas yours is collapsing down at this point. So it allows you to practice breathing and keeping the lead arm high. The lead arm isn't dropping, and the elbow isn't dropping, and the hand pushing forward. It's always shoulder above elbow, above wrist, above fingers.
Been used in swimming for many years, originally used to either promote good leg kick efficiency and or promote rotation. To practice this drill well, push off in that torpedo position and immediately pull out so you're actually kicking on your side. Left arm extended forward, right arm held loosely down by your side, almost just down by your hips. Have your eyes looking down towards the bottom of the pool, blowing a long continuous stream of bubbles. Turn your head to the side to take a breath whenever you need to, but otherwise have your attention looking down towards that black line. When you're kicking on your side, think about drawing your shoulder blades together and back to allow great alignment of your middle finger straight down the pool, pointing straight forward in front of the same shoulder. One of the most commonly overlooked issues with this particular drill is for that lead arm to be collapsing or just hung loosely in the water. The lead arm needs to have a sense of rigidity about it, fingertips below the wrist and wrist below the elbow. Otherwise, if you collapse onto your elbow and allow the hand to rise up towards the surface of the water, you'll effectively be pushing yourself backwards and sinking your legs. Notice how the palm of the hand is looking down towards the bottom of the pool, not with the palm turned out towards the side, as is commonly seen when people try this exercise for the first time. Keeping the palm of the hand looking down, with the fingertips angled slightly down towards the bottom of the pool, allows good connection with the water, a nice, stable base.
Okay.
The kick on your side drill
So
is
I
a
think
mainstay
that's,
drill of the Swim Smooth.
I think that's certainly something that that we benefit from, working on the kicking on the side drill. And like I say, it is best done with fins, and their long fins are better than the short fins because it allows you to kick more easily and not have to put quite so much effort into it. You can get a few kicks for a bit more propulsion. So that's one for you to work on. The next progression from that would be the 616, which is the same kind of thing. I won't show you the whole thing. It's the same kind of thing, but you take 6 kicks before taking one stroke and rolling onto the other side.
This is the 616 drill, which is a development of the kick on your side drill. It's a building block of the stroke here, as we're introducing a single stroke to swap the swimmer from side to side.
This is a great drill to include in most of your warm-up sets, as it helps to reaffirm that idea of good streamlining, body position, and alignment in the water, and allowing you to just slowly rotate from one stroke over to the next. A key point, as you can see here with the drill, is to ensure that you breathe after you've taken the stroke to swap over onto the other side. Many swimmers try to fit in a cheeky breath out to the side just before they take the stroke, and this usually causes the lead arm to collapse in the water. So think to yourself, bubbles on the side, stroke, and then breathe.
This is a harder drill than kicking on your side because of the introduction of the stroke. It's very common to see swimmers zigzagging down the pool while performing 616. Make sure as you perform the stroke and the recovering arm comes over the top, you enter into the water straight forward. Don't cross over and then straighten it up. Go straight into that aligned position.
Okay, so that's introducing the stroke, and then finally what you do then is progress further onto the 636.
The 636 drill is a further development of our side kicking exercises. With 616, we introduced a single stroke to swap sides. With 636, we're taking 3 strokes in a row to swap you onto the other side of your stroke.
This allows you to really feel like you're building back up into the normal freestyle stroke. Almost think of it as normal bilateral breathing, with just a period extended out on your side whilst you take that breath in, ensuring that you remember to align your stroke, shoulders back and chest forward.
Remember, as with 616, to breathe after the strokes. So it's 6 kicks on the side, 3 strokes, and then breathe.
Okay. And I think for now, I think that's around about it. This gives you plenty of points to work on. So the next stage of the progression would be moving on to the kind of propulsive elements, but body alignment, breathing and relaxation are the key things for you to work on initially. Your propulsion will improve when you work on those things, but the difficulty is if you give you too many things to work on at any one time, it will lead to confusion. You need to concentrate on the key elements we've spoken about before looking at improving the catch and pull through. Good body positioning will set you up for a really good catch, so you'll be in a much better place anyway. But yeah, I think that's really something for the next stage. Well, I hope you found that useful. If you've got any questions or anything, then let me know. We do have an account with Finis, so if you need any fins and hand paddles and kickboards, anything like that, then let me know and I can get those for you. And I think that's about it. But I hope you found it useful, and let me know if you've got any questions or anything, Alison. Okay.